The good thing with email stuff, and I do this with my consulting clients, like within 1 to 2 hours, you can pretty much get everyone. I've gotten some people with like hundreds of thousands of emails in their inbox.
That is Nick Sonnenberg, a serial entrepreneur, author, speaker, and consultant. Nick and a partner, Ari Meisel, founded Leverage, a high-end freelancer marketplace. And they built the business by using off-the-shelf tools such as Slack, Trello, and Zapier. Nick and Ari wrote a book about the experience titled Idea to Execution: How to Optimize, Automate, Outsource Everything in Your Business. Nick now regularly consults with clients on team productivity and how to get the most out of team productivity tools. You can learn more about Nick's freelancer staffing firm at getleverage.com. And you can read his articles on Inc.com or on Medium, and the links are in the show notes. I hope you'll consider signing up for the weekly Unleashed email. I will send you a transcript of each episode, book recommendations, and consulting tips. You can visit umbrex.com and click on the Unleashed tab to sign up. Hello, Nick. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Nick, tell me about some of the tools that you most frequently are recommending to professionals to help make them more efficient.
Well, I guess it matters. Are you talking about professionals that work within a team or run teams or run companies, or are you just talking about professionals that are working for themselves by themselves?
Well, let's talk about both. But why don't we start with maybe tools that would be more just for an individual, and then we can get into team tools as a sort of a second topic.
Sure. Well, I guess like the number one tool for an individual is email, since it's like the number one thing that you're going to be using the most. So having an understanding of best practices, how to use email, get to inbox zero, and the best way to get to inbox zero is to get to email zero. So understanding, really how to leverage email so that you're in control of it rather than it controlling you is probably the number one thing as an individual. Obviously, too, if you're working within a team, you're still, or with your company, you're still having to manage a lot of email. But then there's some other tools like Slack and some others that start popping up as being core tools in that context.
Great. What are some of the tips around email that you recommend to help people be more efficient in their use of email?
So I'm not like one of these people that say, okay, well, don't look at email for the first 2 hours of every day, and that's the trick, or having like out of office responders. I think that all of those are recommendations because it's kind of like treating the symptom. If you don't have good control over your email and don't know how to manage email properly, then those are good suggestions. But if you know how to manage email, then I don't recommend a lot of those common suggestions. So the thing with email, the best suggestion with email is try not to email in the first place. There's a boomerang effect with email. The more you email, the more you get back in. And a lot of times people misuse email, and they use email and it should be another tool that they're using. Email is just a to-do list that other people can add to. And that's the way to think about email. And a lot of times you might be sending someone an email, but they're, on your team, and you should be using a tool like Slack for internal communication. So that takes care of quite a lot of email. And if you have a weekly meeting with people, and you have ideas to share with them, don't email them every idea, add it to the weekly agenda. If you are on a team and you have tasks and projects to manage amongst your team, don't email those tasks to people, add it to a project management software. So the best trick is to only use email in the context that it should be used in, which is for external communication. And then beyond that, I like Gmail. You could use any email really, but I like Gmail for a few reasons. It has a few bells and whistles that you don't get in Apple Mail or Outlook. Like it automatically categorizes things in forums, updates, and promotions. So that automatically gets rid of quite a lot of stuff. So you can really just be focusing in the primary email folder. And another thing to be thinking about with email is there's really only 3 things every piece of email that comes in you can do with, and it's either you deal with it, David Allen has this thing called the 2-minute rule. So anything that takes less than 2 minutes, just deal with now. Or you can defer it. So in Gmail, it has built-in snoozing. So that's useful for things like, if you theme your days and you only, deal with admin type of stuff on Mondays, and anything that comes in that's non-urgent, you can just snooze to a Monday. Or if you have directions to a party you're going to for 3 months from now, you can snooze that email to the morning of that event. So it's not just sitting in your inbox, for 3 months, but it leaves your inbox and comes back in 3 months. You could use the same strategy with writing an email to someone, and you want to be reminded if they don't reply to you. So a lot of the times, if I want to be notified if I don't get the reply, I'll send an email and then I'll snooze it for a week or something. And if that person responds in 3 days, it automatically kicks it out of the snooze. And if they don't, then at the very least, I know I'll be reminded in a week. And then the last thing to think about with email is, in all of these email providers, there's the concept of an archive. And I don't believe in deleting email. Like, I really just archive everything. So having your inbox be your to-do list, and then as you deal with things, you archive them so that your inbox is really just like less than 10 or 20 line items at any point in time. You can always go and see the all mail, which is like everything, inbox plus archive, but creating a separation between things that need to get done and not is really important. And a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they're at inbox 0 because they're keeping track of what has been read versus unread. So like if it's bold or not bold. And that's really just not at all the same, because your eye, even if you read it and it's now no longer bold, you still can't help but get like cognitive overload when your eyes are looking at, your inbox and you have thousands of things in it. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think that you would probably not approve of my email management system.
Well, the good thing with email stuff, and I do this with my consulting clients, like within 1 to 2 hours, you can pretty much get everyone. I've gotten some people with like hundreds of thousands of emails in their inbox within a couple hours, and it's really just really limited by Google or Apple servers, because when you start archiving that much, you can hang up the servers. But within a couple hours, you could really get someone from 100,000 down to 20 without deleting things, without things getting missed or overlooked. And it changes people's lives. I mean, the quickest way to save a couple hours a week is getting a grip on your email.
Okay, great. What are some of the other tools for the individuals that people should be thinking about?
So on an individual basis, I use Cloud App a lot, it's a screenshotting tool on my computer, because I do a lot of annotated screenshots and stuff that I share with people. I use Calendly. I was using Calendly, now I use Mixmax, but I use that for scheduling. So any of these scheduling tools, there's Schedule Once, Calendly, Mixmax. That's a really good individual hack, because it integrates with your calendar. So instead of you going back and forth with people, which I think on average it's like 7.5 emails back and forth for 2 people to make the time to meet, having one of these softwares like Calendly, where it integrates with your availability on your calendar, and you just share a URL with someone, and then they can pick based on your availability without seeing the details of your calendar, and then it just automatically goes into your calendar, is a really good time saver, because just after email, scheduling is another big time suck.
Yeah.
And a trick with that is you should buy URLs that are easy to remember, so like speak2whale.com, and have that point to domain name forwarding to your Calendly or Schedule Once URL. So then if you're meeting people, you could just say that, and they want to meet with you, you just say, go to speakwithwill.com, and easy for them to remember, and they could do it from their phone, and it points to your booking page.
That is genius. I have a Calendly. I've been using it for, a year and a half, and I love it. I even did an episode on it a few months ago, but I didn't think of that, about getting a URL that would just point to it. So,
I have URLs for everything. I got it from my Zooms, for my Calendlys, for job applications through at my company Leverage. Like we do Outsource for everything. If you want to apply for a job at Leverage, you got to work for leverage.com, and that points to a type form.
Oh, that's genius. Okay, well, what a great idea. And then you just point it to it. That's great. I love it. So the cloud app. Now, in terms of annotated screenshots, that's not something I've done a lot of. How do you find that helpful? And tell me about that.
Well, this is less helpful for an individual as it is for people on teams, but I'm really big into process documentation. So annotated screenshots is really helpful when you're trying to document a process, because the goal with documenting a process is you want to make it so straightforward and easy for someone to follow. And an annotated screenshot really helps with that. Other places I use it a lot too is, we've built our own project management software at my company Leverage to handle all the tasks and projects that we do for our clients. And, if there's a bug or some weird functionality, it's really helpful to be able to just quickly take a screenshot and point to what the problem is.
Great. What are some tools that you recommend for teams?
Yeah, so Slack is a for sure tool. That's a team communication tool. For project management software, I've both used Trello and Asana, and they're both great. Right now we're using Asana. I basically built my company off of Zapier, which is an automation tool that glues together, you could think of, two third-party tools so they can start communicating and speaking to each other. So it's like, if this happens on this tool, then trigger this action on another tool. So if someone signs up on your website, automatically post a message in a Slack channel. If you click a check mark in Process Street, which is a process documentation tool, automatically send a contract or agreement via hello sign to the applicant. So Zapier is another real core one. And then Process Street is the other kind of core tool that we're using for process documentation.
I'm not familiar with one. What's that called again?
Process Street.
Oh.
I think we have if you type in like a coupon thing for Leverage, I think we have some discount with them. It might be helpful for your listeners, but it's a process documentation tool. So most companies that I've consulted with, no one's thinking about documenting processes, or very rarely. And most companies are sitting on massive risk that, only one person knows how to do payroll or hire, which are all processes. Two, using a tool like Process Street, it allows you to, one, start automating certain steps of processes since it integrates with that Zapier tool. And also, it allows for people to start rotating positions, which is something we do at Leverage. And the rotating of positions is a really interesting exercise to do with a team, and because it forces fresh eyes to start looking at all the different areas of the company.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm a big believer in process documentation. After 5 years in the nuclear Navy, it's having a checklist is. I feel very uncomfortable without a checklist in hand. Mm-hmm. Now, tell me a little bit about your, one of your, business lines, or one of the things that you do. I think is serve as a consultant to help other people learn how to use all these tools. Right? Could you talk a little bit about that practice of yours?
On the consulting, yeah. So what I found was, without really promoting the consulting, people just started reaching out to me because they either read my book, Idea to Execution, or they heard about, kind of how we built Leverage, my outsourcing platform, by leveraging, no pun intended, all these tools in clever ways. And, we're a fully remote company with 100 people, and we never raised money because we were able to use systems in clever ways. So, I've worked with small 2-person companies all the way up to 1,200-person companies, and the co-founder of Ethereum, and Jay Abraham, and some other big names. And yeah, what I found is no matter what size company, everyone kind of has similar type of issues in terms of their systems, and really what it boils down to is team productivity, which is something that a lot of people weren't really looking at. People, like the Tim Ferrisses or David Allens are talking about individual productivity. But I realized in this last couple of years that there's kind of a big need for companies to hire consultants, kind of like a hybrid COO, CTO, to go in and not consult them on pricing strategy or where the market's going to be in 5 years and how they should position themselves for global expansion and all that, but just more simply, how do you make your teams more efficient? What kind of technology and systems should you put in place so that you could automate certain things that people shouldn't be doing, and you make sure that you minimize, all the wasted time that happens inside of a team. And when you don't have good systems and processes, what ends up happening is your team, people on your team, they're looking in 10 different places to find information because nothing is streamlined. It causes overwhelm. People start saying things like, I'm underwater or my plate's full. I mean, I haven't really worked with anyone where they're not saying things like that. Yeah, so I go in and I realized over this time period that I was kind of doing the same thing with every client. They were all having the same issue, and it kind of broke down to helping them clean up how they're communicating, both internally and externally. So that's like email for external, Slack for internal. And the other big category was a lot of people didn't have any concept of project management software or agendas or any structure to their weekly meetings. So that's kind of the next component. And then the last thing was no one was documenting anything. Internal knowledge was just, nowhere to be found. So then I helped them get set up with internal wikis and process documentation. So those are kind of like the three major buckets that I work with companies on. And I'm really good at looking at processes and helping figure out clever ways how to save time or optimize or automate various processes. And this framework, it boiled down to those three buckets, and I called it communication, planning, and resource. So it's CPR is like the acronym of that framework. And it's what I'm writing my next book about, which is called Come Up for Air, because that name comes from basically every single person I've ever worked with saying that they're underwater.
Yeah, makes sense. And what's an engagement with you look like? Is it sort of a one-day workshop, or do you come, one day every week for a while, or sort of what are the phases? How do you engage with clients?
It's flexible. It's however they want to do things. So a lot of times I'll come in for one day a quarter. I mean, I'm pretty efficient when I come in. So usually one day you get quite a lot. I find that after a day, most teams are saving, anywhere from 1 to 3 hours each person on the team for on a weekly basis. So I have some clients that I'm doing, a weekly Zoom 1 hour call with. I have other clients where I'll fly out or they'll come to see me for full day sessions. And I'm just in talks right now to potentially work with my friend Keith Ferrazzi. He wrote a book called Never Eat Alone. We might be launching a small group mastermind kind of thing, because he's really an expert at team efficiency, but from a leadership and culture and softer skills point of view. And I'm much more still about team efficiency, but from more technical and systems point of view and automation. So we might co-brand, and we're going to do an experiment and do a 2-day workshop together and see how that goes, where you would come with 2 people from your company, most likely the CEO and COO, and it would be a 2-day workshop. So that's another kind of new thing that's coming in the next few months that we're going to be experimenting with.
That's amazing. Tell us a little bit about your company, Leverage.
Yeah, so Leverage, it's an outsourcing platform. If people that are listening are familiar with Upwork or Fiverr, one of those marketplaces where you can hire people for design or marketing or copywriting or development or even just virtual assistant work. Leverage is similar, but we're higher end. So we have vetted freelancers, and instead of you having to sort through, 100,000 people on one of those other platforms, we just have already done the vetting. So you post whatever you need, and we give you a team of around 100 people with all different skill sets that can execute any task or project pretty much that you would need. I mean, the main categories that we specialize in are admin, marketing, and operations. But I like to think of it kind of like Uber, but for tasks, in the sense that when you click a button in Uber, it pings a bunch of drivers that will come to pick you up. As a client, you would post a task or project, and we categorize it, and it enters our marketplace of vetted freelancers. And then, someone with a matching skill set will pick it up, and you're always paying the same rate. It's $40 an hour for admin work and $80 an hour for the other categories, unless you need something really specialized, and then we would, send you to one of our partners. But we keep track of time to the second, and there's no annual commitment. You can go month to month. And we have 3 different tier plans, and the bigger the plan, the more discount that you're getting. But we make people commit to at least $300 a month of service usage per month, and it goes up from there.
From running that business, what have you observed? Any lessons learned on how to thrive as a freelancer, as an independent professional? What do you think distinguishes those who are really successful at it over the longer term and keep getting business and are successful at it?
They're self-starters that they don't need their hand being held. They're hungry. They're in the marketplace. They're actively seeing the stuff that gets posted, and they're picking it up. So we have plenty of freelancers that are making 6 figures. We've had a lot of people that were making well over $100,000 a year in a corporate job, and they're making the same amount of money at Leverage, but they have the flexibility of working remotely, whatever hours they want. They could pick up whatever work interests them. They could be, instead of in Toronto in the freezing cold, they could be, in South America with their family, enjoying the weather and working from their laptop near a beach. So our freelancers that are most successful, kind of jump all in and can be autonomous.
Are there any sort of habits or productivity routines that you've recently adopted that you found, exciting or that are really working for you?
For myself, my own productivity, I'm constantly trying new things. I've been playing around on the phone with accessibility mode to take off the color from the phone so it's less distracting. So you can triple click the home screen to remove color. I've been time blocking my calendar. So I theme my days. So different days have different kind of themes. And then I block off time to work on different types of work. So there's some time for data science, because that's my background is in data science. There's time for working on my books. There's time for internal meetings, for external meetings. Those are kind of the newer things I'm experimenting with.
I'm interested in that idea of having themes for your days. Could you give us some examples of what are the different themes that you go through?
Yeah, so like Mondays are just like my crap day. So I do like all my one-on-one meetings with my team for the week, and any like admin type of stuff that I don't really enjoy doing, I just put it on a Monday. So like Monday is like a day that I don't myself, do actual work. It's really more facilitating and checking in on people and doing some cleanup. Fridays I try to leave open as a buffer day. And, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it changes quarter to quarter. Some quarters I might leave like Wednesdays as like a consulting day. Tuesdays could be a day for educational stuff where I'll spend more of a percentage of my day, on just educational stuff, either reading or podcast listening or, watching videos that are relevant to watch. It all just depends, but whatever it is, like you could have, I know some people that have 2 buffer days a week where Tuesdays and Thursdays, they do no work. So that's a themed day, and they might be running multiple companies. So maybe company A is on a Monday and company B is on a Wednesday. So it all just depends. But I find that the theming days is useful. And I wrote an Inc. article about this, but I also try to make my calendar look like an arrow kind of. So what I mean is I try to stack more meetings earlier in the week and less towards the end of the week. So kind of like points, if you look at it on the side, because things come up earlier on in the week, and it's useful, I find, to have that flexibility later on in the week. So, if I'm scheduling things out, I'll try as hard as possible, all things being equal, to try to get it in on like a Monday through Wednesday. So I'm leaving some buffer time on Thursday and Friday for, the fires or emergencies that will inevitably come up.
I love it. I love the idea of buffer days. I'm going to try that out. Nick, it's been great having you on the show. Thanks so much for carving out some time. Your book, Idea to Execution: How to Optimize, Automate, and Outsource Everything in Your Business. You gave us some of the tips from there. If people want to learn more, that's a book to check out. And what's the best place to find out more about you, or maybe reach out to you online? You want to give some URLs?
Yeah. Getleverage.com is the outsourcing company. And, all information on me you can just find on the website.
Fantastic. Nick, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Unleashed, the show that explores how to thrive as an independent professional. Unleashed is sponsored by Umbrex, the world's first global community of top-tier independent management consultants. The mission of Umbrex is to create opportunities for independent management consultants to meet, share lessons learned, and collaborate. I'd love to get your feedback and hear any questions that you'd like to see us answer on this show. You can email me at unleashed@umbrex.com. That's UMBREX.com. If you found anything on the show helpful, it would be a real gift if you would let a friend know about the show and take a minute to leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And if you subscribe, our show will get delivered to your device every Monday. Our audio engineer is Dave Nelson. Our theme song was composed by Gary Negbauer, and I'm your host, Will Bachman. Thanks for listening.